She was driving home, just another night, the city lights reflecting off her windshield, nothing out of the ordinary, until flashing lights appeared in her rearview mirror. Heart racing, she pulled over, confused and scared. The officers approached, cold and silent, as if the world had stopped just for her. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong, but she had no idea how far this night would go, or who would change its course forever. And then, a figure appeared, a presence that made the air shift. What happened next would shock everyone and expose a truth too many want to ignore. It was a quiet evening in the suburbs. She had just finished a long day at work, her mind on dinner and catching up on her favorite show. Her car hummed along familiar streets, the routine comforting in its predictability. Friends and neighbors waved as she passed, and for a moment, everything felt safe. She wasn't doing anything wrong, just driving home like any other night. But beneath the calm, something was shifting. A car appeared behind her, lights flashing, moving slower than it should. She didn't understand why she was being followed, and a small knot of worry began to grow in her stomach. What started as an ordinary evening was about to unravel into a moment that would change her life, and open her eyes to a reality she could no longer ignore. The flashing lights grew brighter in her rearview mirror, reflecting off the rear windshield in sharp, almost accusing lines. Her pulse quickened, fingers tightening on the steering wheel. She had done nothing wrong, no traffic violations, no reckless driving, but the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong pressed down on her chest. The officer's car slowed, pulling closer, and the sense of being trapped grew unbearable. Every instinct screamed at her to remain calm, to keep her hands visible, but her mind raced with the countless stories she had heard, the countless warnings whispered among friends and family. As she eased her car to the side of the road, her eyes met the officer in the driver's seat, a figure of authority, expression unreadable, radiating power and judgment in equal measure. They approached silently, each step deliberate, as if the world had paused to watch her alone. She felt the weight of every stare, every expectation, every judgment that wasn't hers to bear. Panic threatened to rise, but she swallowed it down, hoping her composure would be enough to keep her safe. Minutes stretched like hours. The first words finally came, clipped and sharp, questioning her presence, her actions, her right to be there at all. Her heart sank as she realized that logic and explanation would mean nothing here. This was no longer about the law, it was about perception, about fear, about power. She tried to stay steady, breathing in and out, willing herself to appear harmless, but the world outside the car seemed to shrink to just the officers and her. A tense standoff where any movement could ignite the wrong reaction. Just when the tension seemed unbearable, headlights appeared from a distance. Another figure entering the scene. Her stomach dropped as the realization hit. It was her husband, but not just any husband. He was a man of authority, someone who commanded respect, someone whose presence alone could shift the balance. She watched as the officer's posture subtly changed, their demeanor faltering, hesitation replacing aggression. Her chest lifted slightly, hope creeping in like the first light of dawn after a long, suffocating night. Even with him there, uncertainty lingered. Would his arrival be enough to undo the fear and injustice she faced, or would the situation spiral beyond control before anyone could intervene? She could only watch, tense and silent, as her husband approached, badge glinting under the streetlights. Every second felt like a lifetime, every breath weighed heavy with anticipation. And then, the moment arrived. The instant that would define the rest of the night, and the story everyone would remember. Her husband stepped out of the car, badge in hand, his presence commanding yet calm. The air between them and the officers seemed to thicken, heavy with tension and unspoken questions. For a moment, the world felt like it had stopped, every second stretching unbearably, every heartbeat echoing loudly in her ears. She could see the flicker of doubt cross the officers' faces, the hesitation that hadn't existed just moments ago. But even with his authority, the fear didn't disappear. She felt her hands tremble on the steering wheel, the helplessness of the moment pressing down harder than ever. The officers' voices rose, sharp and uncertain, their words laced with caution now, but still probing, still suspicious. Her chest tightened as she realized how close the situation had come to spiraling beyond control, how easily her life could have been shattered over nothing more than perception. Her husband spoke, measured and firm, asserting the truth of their situation. Every word carried weight, a shield against the injustice that had cornered her. Slowly, the officer's stances softened, the edge of aggression replaced by reluctant acknowledgement. Relief surged through her, tempered by lingering disbelief. The encounter that had begun with fear and uncertainty was pivoting, the balance shifting under the undeniable presence of accountability and authority. And yet, as the adrenaline ebbed, she realized the deeper truth. Tonight was not just about her, it was about every person who had faced similar moments, every fear born from systemic bias, every injustice left unresolved. The shock of the near catastrophe lingered, the intensity of the moment etched into her mind forever. As the tension finally broke, a silence fell, a quiet that carried both release and reckoning. She exhaled slowly, aware that this night would remain with her, a reminder of fragility, power, and resilience. And as they drove away, she couldn't help but wonder, how many others had no one to arrive, no shield to protect them, no voice to change the course of fate. The encounter ended as abruptly as it had begun. The officers finally stepped back, tension easing, leaving behind a mix of relief, disbelief, and lingering fear. She sat in her car for a long moment, hands still gripping the steering wheel, heart pounding. The adrenaline was fading, but the weight of what had just happened pressed heavily on her chest. She had escaped harm this time, but the memory of the fear, the uncertainty, and the injustice would remain with her forever. As she drove home, she couldn't shake the thought that her story was far from unique. Countless others, people who didn't have a badge, who didn't have someone to stand beside them, faced similar moments every day. This was not just one incident, it was a reflection of a system where fear and prejudice could turn ordinary moments into life-altering crises. The reality of racial injustice, invisible to many, was painfully clear in that streetlight-lit confrontation. Yet, within the fear and anger, there was a spark of hope. The presence of accountability, the courage to confront bias, had made a difference. It was a reminder that change, however small, begins with action, with standing up, with demanding recognition of human dignity. The story ended that night, but its meaning stretched far beyond one car, one street, one encounter. The question lingers long after. How many more faced the same fear alone, without anyone to intervene, without anyone to validate their humanity? And how long will the world wait before acknowledging the depth of this reality? This is more than her story, it is the story of millions. It is a call to see, to listen, and to act, because silence is complicity, and change begins when we refuse to look away.